Hello and welcome to this month's Spotlight Strategy. This month we are featuring a strategy called conversation cards. So come along as we investigate this new strategy. So as you know, this year we have been focused on academic conversations. And this strategy, conversation cards, is assuming that you have already been practicing building conversation skills with your students all year long, and now you want to refine some of those skills. And we know that using alternate strategies is a great way to do that. This strategy starts with getting your students in triads. So you would want to make sure that you strategically group students into groups of 3. And here's how it works. You're going to start with a really good prompt. So this could be a question or it could be a picture prompt. And the example that I have today is a picture of the European explorers coming to the Americas. And I know it might be a little difficult to see the picture, but there's a lot of detail in here. And the prompt would be, what is the central message that the artist is trying to convey? And so students would have to look at all the details in this picture and then pose a response to that question and support it with evidence from the picture. So that's what 2 of the students are doing. And with 2, it's very hard to stay on the periphery or to sort of check out of the conversation. So 2 is a really great number. So then what is the 3rd student doing? The 3rd student is using these cards to analyze the conversation, to really take that conversation and break it apart. And here are some of the comments on these cards. Ask for another example to support the idea. Paraphrase what your partner said. Ask your partner to clarify why or how. Show that you're listening with your eyes, nods, and posture. Pose a competing idea and start to build it up. Stay focused on the conversation prompt. Encourage your partner to talk more. Summarize the conversation up until now and what still needs to be discussed. Ask for criteria used to evaluate evidence. And so these are very specific bits of advice. So that student who is analyzing, really listening to his or her classmates have a conversation, that student is listening critically and then offering very specific advice. So that each one of the conversation analyzers would get a packet with these cards cut apart. So as you can tell, this is not something that you would just throw out at students on day 1. This is probably something, and we've used this at the middle school. This works well if you can create a fishbowl activity where you would choose 2 students to have a conversation, and then you as the teacher would be the conversation analyzer. And you would listen to your students, begin to have that conversation, and then say, all right, let's freeze. And then you would explain to your students that maybe you saw one student was doing more talking. So you would then interject and slide a card to the person who needs to help get their partner to say a little more. Maybe the conversation has meandered and is not making so much sense, so maybe you need to ask someone to paraphrase what their partner has said, and then that card could be slid to the appropriate partner. So all that to say, conversation cards is a great way to hone not only the speaker skills, but listening skills as well.
Carmen, I have a question. There are 9 cards there. Would I do all 9 of them at one time?
Great question, Shannon. You would most likely start with maybe 2 or 3 of these conversation cards and introduce them as skills, because they really are skills. Paraphrasing is a skill. Encouraging your partner to talk more is a skill. And so I would highly recommend to maybe start with 2 or 3 and and unpack them in that way. But it definitely is a great strategy for going deeper with conversation.
Yeah, and I can see, even for our young learners at the elementary level, you gave the example at middle school, but at the elementary level, being able to make visuals to kind of assign to these skills so that they have that idea of what they have to do to build their conversations.
Yes. It really is a skill. The more we've been talking about this all year long, we realize that conversation doesn't just happen, that it is a skill that both the speaker and the listener need to possess those skills in order to have an effective conversation. But I think the more we talk about it with our students and have those explicit teaching moments and use strategies like conversation cards, I think that we can really move students along in a positive trajectory.